Welcome to Truth Bumps. We are continuing our conversation from the last session. Really feeling inspired at the moment to continue talking to you guys about manifestation, because manifestation is so much more than manifesting what you want in your life and what you want to do. It really is about becoming the greatest version of yourself. It's about becoming. And so that's why I'm continuing the conversation. There's so much different branches that actually do branch out from this topic. So in the last session, I did start to speak to you about a story that was relevant to me of when I first stopped speaking, and then I started to pick up. Imagine that's all you knew. You've been speaking for years. It's the industry you grew up with. It's how you're brought up as a young child. I was raised that way, to be conscious, to be intuitive. I've worked in the industry for such a long time, for years before I even started to speak and start to coach. Imagine that's all you know. To then suddenly stop doing that and then start a brand new career. And at first I didn't even know what that career was going to be. It was just to stop because the feeling wasn't present to continue. And then go and make something of yourself, become someone, do and achieve things within a brand new industry. This right there is, the art of manifestation. And I want to share more with you about that story. But before I do, what I've titled today's session is Empty is the New Full. Because this, for me to discuss, because I can tell you what I did or what I do, but most people won't have the capacity to do that. And if they do, it ends up being a little bit woo-woo. So I want to first share with you guys how to grow your capacity. And this is why I just said manifestation is not just about manifesting things and doing things and accomplishing things. And it's not about the outcome and result necessarily, although there might be some amazing outcome and results that you manifest in your life. But it's more about who you've become. It's the journey that you've taken. It's the growth and the expansion that has taken place. It's the person that you've become who has the capacity to do those things, who has the capacity to receive those things. So, and I know I've talked to you guys about manifestation is a giving process, but like I've mentioned in previous recordings, it doesn't mean that you won't receive anything. Most importantly, the receiving is happening from yourself, within yourself, but that obviously then gets reflected into your story, and your story becomes less or becomes more effortless. Things start to just happen, just like the sunrise coming up. I keep using that as a reference point because it's something that I love, the sunrise. So it's just like it just happens. It gets to a point where you just know it's going to happen. Sometimes people ask me, how did you know that was going to happen? Or how do you have so much faith? And I go, it's not even a faith. It's a knowing. I've always, at first it starts all about trusting the process, but I just know that, the story may change. You might lose something, you might gain something, but you never lose yourself. And no one can take that away from you. What you're manifesting in your life comes from who you are, So again, I'm continuing this conversation about manifestation because I get to talk about who you are. I get to talk about who you're becoming. I get to talk to you about becoming the greatest version of yourself, becoming an infinite being in a finite world. I get to continue to talk to you about that. And your ego is getting excited because it's like, whoa, great, we're going to talk about manifesting. So then finally I can have the things I want in my life. But really, the true treasure here, the true pleasure here is actually who you become in the process of wanting to accomplish the results in your life. So, I said to you just right now a moment ago that, I could tell you what I do, but so many people will hear that and actually they might be inspired about what I do, but they might not have the capacity to actually apply it for themselves. So I want to talk about this word capacity. So capacity is all got to do with who you are. So what you do and what you have is ultimately, they say the fish rots from the head down. Well, the power comes from who you are. It comes from, the person that you've become, the person that you are. That then determines what you do. That then determines how willing you are to receive the things that come into your life. So what I'm talking about here, and as I mentioned to you in the title is called "Empty is the New Full." Because your true power, your true capacity, infinite, is an emptiness. And so what I want to talk to you guys about here is something that I continuously do. I look to come back to myself in the moment. I look to come back and connect to myself as an infinite energy. Now, if you think about this, and I share a lot about this in my signatory program, the WTF experience rather. And most of you, or all of you, should have received and completed that, because that is the platform of everything that I'm actually sharing from. We're talking from there. So if you go back to the WTF, and we're just going to revisit this right now. When I talk about infinity, I say infinity is an emptiness. But when you're looking at that emptiness with your intellectual understanding, in other words, with the part of you that identifies with form, all it sees in the emptiness is not an emptiness that is a fullness, like I'm talking about here, empty is the new full. That same emptiness that some will see as a fullness, well, most people will see that as a void, as though something's missing. And of course, that makes sense, because the part of you that identifies to form, if it looks into the emptiness, if it looks into the void, and how do we look into the emptiness? It's not like we see it with these eyes. You're sensing it. We have 5 human senses. It's what we see, what we hear, what we touch physically, what we smell, what we taste. But we also have a 6th sense. And and we use our sense to, in other words, you're feeling the emptiness. And when you're unaware or unfamiliar with the emptiness, in other words, you haven't explored it, you haven't sat with it. When you are unfamiliar with the emptiness always presents itself as a void. And what do we want to do with voids? We want to push it away. We want to avoid the void. And how do we avoid the void? We go and look for goals or things to accomplish or things to buy. Maybe it's your shoes, maybe it's cars, maybe it's airplanes for me, whatever it is. But you're looking to do things or to have things in order to avoid the void. And we all know, you can't avoid the void, because as soon as you go and look to it, do things and accomplish things, but there's always a point where life just presents you a moment where you can just be quiet. Like, maybe it's on a Sunday night, you're sitting there by yourself. Maybe, you got sick and you've got no choice, but you can't go and do things. And, it's like you created an illness or circumstances for you to stop. Sometimes the universe presents us circumstances in order for us to stop. And I know, with the pandemic that recently we all went through, the COVID pandemic, we all as human beings, a global race of human beings, we all had to stop. Everything went into shutdown and people stopped working and etc. And that made people feel really uncomfortable, because they're not used to not doing anything. They feel uncomfortable with the silence. They feel uncomfortable with the undoing. They feel uncomfortable because there's nothing to distract them. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't really feel uncomfortable at all during that time, during that period. In fact, I actually coached a lot of clients through that period. And, They all tell me, like, if it wasn't for the coaching, they don't know where they would be during that period. Obviously it's a very tough period, and there's, suicide went up and all kinds of things happened during that period. And I'm just showing you that, sometimes people feel very uncomfortable with the silence. Sometimes you jump in a lift and, there's 4 or 5 other people in the lift, and everyone kind of moves to the corner, and everyone doesn't make eye contact because everyone feels uncomfortable with the silence. What's wrong with having eye contact and just giving a smile or saying g'day or saying hello, or just feel comfortable just to say nothing and just be within that silence. But again, what so many people feel uncomfortable, they'll get on their phones and they pretend they're busy, and they pretend to be looking at their shoes, and because they're avoiding the communication or the contact where there is silence. So, my question to you, and you're probably thinking, well, hang on, what does this got to do with manifestation? This has got everything to do with manifestation. This has got to do with your capacity to receive. This has got to do with your capacity to manifest. This has got to do with your capacity to become the greatest version of yourself, which is, at the end of the day, why you came here. You didn't come here to be small. You didn't come here to be limited. You didn't come here to live within boundaries. You came here to break those boundaries. You came here to stand out, not fit in. You came here to be an infinite being. You came here to be an infinite version of yourself, an infinite being in a finite world, as I like to describe it. So this, your capacity has got to do with your space and your capabilities. So here's the thing. Let's just take a moment for a sec. It's more for me. I don't want to run wild here. I just want to make sure we stick to the message. So for me, at first, I totally understand when I'm working with clients, they are avoiding the void, but that void is actually not a void. That is actually the fullness. And the closest thing I could share with someone by taking them there is through a guided meditation. And as part of this coaching app, you will all have access, and as part of the WTF, you would all have done the guided meditation called the oneness meditation. Now, that right there is a meditation that I came up with one day. I was in Los Angeles delivering the WTF experience, and I was talking about the emptiness, and I was talking about the fullness of the emptiness. And I'm talking about how that emptiness is actually infinity if you stop seeing it with these eyes, the human eyes. If you stop looking for it to be tangible, if you stop looking to grab onto it, that right there is the infinity. So, someone one day just went, hey, well, can you give us an example? Can you, and I can feel what you're talking about. But I really want it to drop in for me because I'm not really picking up what you're putting down, if you know what I mean. And I said, all right, well, what about if I just guided you through a meditation? And they went, sure. So I asked my staff to turn the lights off, and I went and guided them through a meditation that I had never delivered. I just let myself be guided, and we all closed our eyes. And of course, I took them on this journey of going back to the emptiness, or becoming present with the emptiness. And of course, 95% of the audience, like most of the people, like once we turned the lights back on and we started to discuss what they got from this. And by the way, if you haven't done it, or maybe it's a good time for you to revisit that meditation, the oneness meditation, go ahead and do it between now and next week when you have your next truth bump. So there's one homework that just dropped in. But most people would actually say to me, if they really stayed present with me and followed my voice and didn't fall asleep and all that jazz that can possibly happen, most people will say they felt, I said, well, how did you feel? They just went like nothing mattered, like just all their problems were gone, like nothing mattered. Now I know at first, when you hear, well, nothing mattered, well, that's not cool because I want some things to matter. And I go, well, okay. And this is the question. I said, well, how did you feel, or what did you feel when nothing mattered? You know what they said? I felt love. And that's the emptiness right there. See, love is infinite, and infinite energy is empty. But when I say it's empty, it's you feel full amongst that emptiness. It can't be, you see, the moment an infinite energy becomes something, it's now finite. It's now a version of itself. In other words, the moment the ocean manifests itself into a drop, it's now finite. It's a version of the infiniteness because the drop is the same thing as the ocean. It's just a limited perspective of the ocean. The ocean is so grand, it's so big. I mean, you take a drop of it and suddenly your power, your capacity is to the limit of the drop. Where a moment ago or at the same time, in the same moment, it could be the entire ocean. So emptiness, my friends, is the new full. And, you know, for me to share my story of, you know, how I went from speaking to, you know, building a brand new career and becoming a pilot and then coming back to speaking. Of course, I'm obviously speaking right now and coaching people. So you're probably like, well, hang on, you came back at some point. Yeah, well, let me share with you a story. But I needed you to first understand that, you know, and, you know, it's you know, and I don't know if you will actually understand, but it drops in. It drops in. You know, most people will, you know, I've got a mantra, which I'm sure I've shared with you guys on this journey. If I haven't, here it is. I say to people, you know, and this is what I do, is what I tell myself. Anytime I'm looking for things to do and fill up, like if I'm sitting down to be present and to connect with myself, I sit down and just go, there's nowhere to be. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to accomplish. And there's nothing to figure out. Now, there's two reasons why that statement is so powerful. And you know what? Maybe in the next session, I can actually expand on that statement there I call my mantra, because you don't want to say that as an affirmation. Because as an affirmation, it's not a fake it till you make it kind of thing. It's an acknowledgement of and a realization of the truth. Because right now, in this moment, there's nowhere to be. Just here. Because right now, in this moment, there's nothing to do. Because right now, in this moment, there's nothing to accomplish. And there certainly isn't anything to figure out. Now, you might think to yourself, well, that's how does shit get done? It's when I say there's nothing to do and nothing to accomplish, it doesn't mean nothing gets accomplished. It doesn't mean there's nothing that gets done. It doesn't mean that things won't get figured out and your creativity will flow in and you have ideas and solutions and all that kind of stuff and pondering. It doesn't mean that doesn't happen. It means the drop is out of the way. You're dropping the drop. Because the drop is going, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do we need to accomplish? We've got to do this. We've got to do this. The drop is looking to be consumed. Again, and the part of you that identifies itself as the drop is the ego. And the ego cannot comprehend the emptiness because the ego comprehends itself as the identity and identifies itself with form. So the moment it sees the emptiness, it sees it as a void. And it wants to avoid that by looking to accomplish things, by looking to do things, by looking to figure things out, by looking to be anywhere but here. There is somewhere else to be. I'm meant to be here. I'm meant to be married by now. I'm meant to have, I'm 45. I should have this career by now. And it's never enough. It's always you need to be somewhere else other than here. And it does that to consume itself in its own consumptions. And its own consumptions are the things that it needs to do. It needs to accomplish. It needs to figure out. So to me, when I want to accomplish anything and manifest anything, I want to make sure it's real. That's right. You want to make sure that it's real and it's real for you. It's not something that you're looking to do to fulfill the emptiness that you're feeling. It's not something you're doing to avoid something about yourself. So, and again, I spoke about this in the first session of manifestation. I talked about some of the things that you actually looking to manifest are actually things you don't love to manifest. It's that you need it. You need it. And you need it because you need to make sure that you avoid the void. You avoid the emptiness. So for me, this is what I do. So I can share my story now a little bit more, and you could probably comprehend it, because in my story that I'm about to share of manifestation, it has completely everything to do with your capacity to manifest. It's, manifestation is not a tool or a technique that you use to manifest what you want. Now, manifestation is a capacity. It's about becoming. They say life is happening for you, not to you. Well, it's happening for you in order for you to become. Because when you become, you are becoming. Every time you're becoming a greater version of yourself. Every single time. It's like you peel layers of the onion back, and you're just getting to the core of who you are. Okay? Yes, life is happening for you. But there is a reason of what's happening or why it's happening for you. It's happening for you in order for you to have the opportunity to become the greatest version of yourself. And ultimately, that's what I call infinite being in a finite world, when you actually peeled all the layers off. So when I can tell you the story now. I can tell you the story. So when you heard me talk about this in the last Truth Bump, so I'll just skim over it here. But basically, I'm on stage, and I was about to get up on stage in Los Angeles to deliver the WTF, and right there, I felt the feeling wasn't there anymore. And I thought to myself, is it just today? Am I off? What's going on? And of course, I delivered that program. And afterwards, I sat with myself. I'm like, what's happening? And I reflected, and I just was like, I don't feel to get up on stage anymore. And it was the weirdest thing, because I loved being up on stage. It's not that I needed to avoid it. It's not that, I wasn't making any money out of it. It's not like I was unfulfilled. It's not like I wasn't good at it. Like, it was, I loved it. But the thing is, I knew, and I'd been doing this work for many years at that point, I knew that if I now continued to get up on stage, I'd be doing it purely because of the results. Oh, well, it's giving me this income, and, people respect me and appreciate me, and people love me, and I get to travel around the world. I'm in the front of the plane and the back of the car, and, I have purpose. But to be honest, without the feeling, the purpose is not real. And that's why I always say purpose is not in what you do. Purpose is in who you are. And when you realize who you are, you become purposeful. Then you're not looking to get purpose from what you do. You're looking to give. It's a giving process. It's a sharing process. You're giving purpose to what you do. Very different. Again, that will be another truth bump, no doubt, about purpose. But I'll just drop that in there, right? Without the feeling, there is no purpose. The purpose is not real. When it becomes a struggle street and you got to, push the wet noodle, if you like you're trying to make it happen, you need to manipulate it, you're doing it without the feeling. It's the drop doing it. Doing it with the feeling is doing it as the ocean. It's all connected. So I knew right there that my speaking career or my speaking days are numbered for now. And I made a decision to, get off stage and no longer do that. Now, as you heard the story last time, and this is where this becomes important. I spoke to my marketing girl. I said, "What are you doing? I need to meet up with you because I'm no longer speaking. I need to cancel my account, blah, blah, blah." And she said, "I'm going for a flight." And I said, "Oh, where are you flying to?" She said, "Oh, no, I'm doing my flying lesson." And that's when I started flying. Now, of course, some of you may know that when I was younger, at the age of 16, I did fly, but I never finished off the dream. I never got my license. I flew by myself. I accomplished the solo part of my flying, but, I didn't have the money. I thought the brains, I didn't get very good grades finishing high school. So I just thought I wasn't smart enough, didn't have enough money. So I just quit. So when she said that, it kind of, that spark was always there. Like the love for flying was always there. And right there, I knew that I'm going to go become a pilot. Now, I mentioned to you guys in the last session that I started flying, and then my instructor asked me, well, where do you want to go? And this is what I do. Okay. I was like, I don't know. I love it. All I know is I love it. And he's like, yeah, but you want to get your commercial license? Do you want to get your instructor rating? Do you want to become an instructor one day? Do you want to work as a career? I'm just like, I don't know. I just love it. And I had no problem saying I don't know, because sometimes people don't know, but they feel stupid not to know. So they just go, oh yeah, these are my goals and these are my ambitions. And be careful of lying about that, because you actually start to enroll in your own lie. And then it takes you off to what I call a false target. It's not real. It's fabricated. That's not your target. So for me, it's all about staying in the emptiness. It's like, and what does that mean? It's staying in the moment. There's nowhere to be. There's nothing to do. Again, I will definitely share with you guys next session about that, because there is an art in staying in that emptiness. And again, I want to make it clear, it does not mean that nothing gets done. It means that you as the feeling, you're moving rather than you as the drop. Remember, the drop cannot move the ocean, yet the ocean is always moving the drop. So that was my answer to my instructor. I was just like, I just want to fly. And as long as you're next to me and you can instruct, I'm happy. So story continued, and it continued to evolve. And I started to get I got my recreational pilot license. And very soon after that, I got my private pilot license. And, that happened within 3 or 4 months. I began to fly all the time. I, at the same time, was wrapping up my speaking. So my income began to disappear. But, and at the same time, I'm spending all this money on aviation. For those who know, in aviation, it's very expensive. It's very expensive to fly planes, and it's very expensive. The amount of hours that you need to do to actually get your license, it ends up being quite a lot of money. So in my story, my money stopped flowing because I'm no longer speaking, or at that point I was wrapping it up still. I remember it was August 2013. I remember that. That's when I started to fly. And I wrapped up all the speaking by the end of the year, 2013. So my flying went into 2014, and I'm spending more and more money in flying. And at the same time, my money stopped flowing. So you probably think, well, how the hell did you accomplish what you did? Well, I was just, again, staying in the moment. So from there, I got my private pilot license. And one day I saw these other aeroplanes at the airport, and I saw that there were aerobatic aircraft. There were guys who were flying it. They were in flight suits. And just so you know, I don't have an adrenaline bone in my body. I as a child, as a kid, when we used to go to fun parks with my brothers and sisters, I would be the kid holding the bags at the bottom of the line while they went up and had their ride, the roller coaster, and they came back. I gave them the bags. I had no interest in doing aerobatics. Now, if I was making a decision of where to go next, I would have never felt to do aerobatics, because I've got no interest to do that. There's no reason for me to do aerobatics. But something happened when these guys taxied by me. I had this feeling that is the next move. That's where I'm meant to be next. But again, I just followed my feeling. I'm staying in the emptiness, and I went and approached that business, and the business, it was called Red Baron. And I said, I want to get my aerobatic endorsement, and they were like, oh, you want to do competitions? I was like, no, I just want to do my aerobatic endorsement. And again, staying in the moment. I just want to become a better pilot. So I signed up to their course, and before a few months maybe, I ended up getting my aerobatic rating. And meanwhile, money started to show up in different areas. I mean, I could share with you so many stories here, guys. Like, I don't want to make this a very, very long truth bump, but you'll be amazed of where the money started, because my money started to really dry up from all the speaking that I was doing. And so, I just continued to fly and continued to get my aerobatic rating. And then one day I met this guy who became a friend of mine. Long story short, I ended up doing aerobatic competitions because, again, it's just where I felt led. It was just the next step, and I did it. And again, you probably need to know this. When I first walked into this business, Red Baron, which now I own, by the way, I walked in there. They had all these medals. And it was from all the people who had competed in the aerobatics and had won all these medals. And that really, I felt a huge level of intimidation. I was like, I don't, I'm not saying I'm not competitive, but I don't like being competitive. I don't like it, So I definitely didn't want to compete in aerobatics. I was just doing the aerobatic component because I felt to do it, and I knew it would make me a better pilot. But there I am in a competition, and I met a good friend of mine there in a competition, and he was buying an airplane. And I was like, what kind of airplane are you buying? And he told me about it. I was like, do you want a partner? And he's like, oh, well, maybe we should go out on a date first. He actually did say that. And of course, we went out for dinner, and we got to know each other, and we realized that we could be business partners, and we ended up buying that plane together. Now, I just want to let you know, I didn't have the money when I said, yes, I'll go 50-50 with you on that aircraft. By the time the aircraft was ready for delivery, the money was ready. Okay. Again, but how? Okay. This will be a very long truth bump, and maybe I can share more with you in person one day where I get to meet you, maybe at a retreat or something, or an event, and I can share many, many stories. And we sit around the campfire, and I can tell you actually how their story bent. But the story bent. I ended up buying that half of that aircraft, and it helped me grow, and it was fun. And before I knew it, I had this feeling. And again, when you have these feelings drop in, you usually know almost what you're wearing, where you were. Like you remember the smell sometimes. Like you just remember when the feeling comes and it's present, you remember that moment. And so, I'm driving on the M5. I remember exactly the M5 is a freeway that goes to the airport from my house in Bondi Beach. And I'm from Bondi Beach. So I'm driving, and then I just had this feeling that I'm going to buy this business, Red Baron, which is the flying school that I was part of. And as part of the flying school, they do also take people up for aerobatic joy flights. Now, you got to understand how outrageous that is. I'm a private pilot. I don't even have my commercial pilot license. You need your commercial pilot license to take people up for, joy flights. I'm not an instructor. You need to be an instructor in order for you to instruct students on how to fly airplanes or learn how to do aerobatics. It was an outrageous feeling. It made no sense. I didn't even see how that was even possible. But of course, I felt it. So I was like, yes. So, to me, again, most people won't say yes because they're looking to say yes to the how. The how is not my power. The feeling is my power. So I just say yes to the feeling. I felt warm about that. I felt connected to that idea. And I just said yes. And again, how that happened, how that story bent. This would be another podcast. It's not a podcast, but a truth bump. But but to cut the story short, from there I ended up becoming a commercial pilot. I ended up buying that entire business, and I actually bought in with a business partner of mine, who was my flight instructor. So I bought in half the business, and again, there was a lot of hurdles in the way in order for me to do that. And I was just like, okay, and I'll tell you one of the hurdles. One of the hurdles was that a person who worked there didn't like me in the story. He was threatened by me, and he actually said, if he buys into this business, I'm out. And the business required him to be there because he was the chief flying instructor, and every business requires that. And I was like, oh, that's interesting that hurdle's there. I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to kick and scream. I won't buy. And I just continued to be there, continued to fly there. I continued to volunteer my time. I would be continued with my flying. One day, that chief flight instructor just walked out, and I looked at my then business partner, and I said, "Well, I guess I'm buying half the business now." And he's like, "I guess you are." And I bought into the business, and so you're probably thinking, well, hang on, what happened here? So I got my commercial pilot license. I ended up buying like all these aeroplanes in the same transaction. Where did the money come from? Yep, the story bends. The money wasn't sitting there. It's not like I had money just sitting there to buy it to invest into this business. And obviously you can imagine, it's quite a hefty bit of investment. You're investing in an aviation business. We had like 7 to 10 different aircraft there. Like it was a pretty, at least 7 or 8 actually. A couple might have not been ours, but it's a pretty big fleet, right? So long story short, I ended up becoming a commercial pilot. I started taking people up for joy flights. And one day I realized it was something my mother said to me. And I realized it was time for me to come back to speaking. I'll tell you the story, actually. My mum, I became really proud of myself because I got my commercial pilot license. It's like it was a childhood dream. I didn't think I was smart enough to do it. I didn't think I had the money to do it back then when I was 16 to 19 years of age. And suddenly I've accomplished this thing, and I never went to university. I never had a degree of anything, any, qualifications. And to me, this was a qualification. I became a commercial pilot. So I went to my mum and said, Mum, I was just really proud of myself. I was like, I got my commercial pilot license. And she looked at me. I mean, I never forget this. She didn't even smile. And I could see, like, I was like, oh, what's she going to say? And she says, oh, I can't even put it into words what she said in that moment. But basically, she just went, you can never stop being who you are, Amir. And I said, well, what do you mean? I'm a pilot today. And she goes, when you speak and you share what you've got to share, that's who you are. Your flying is what you love. And after that, I just, that just sat with me for actually a few months. And I began to realize that what she said, it kind of grew within me. And I was like, she's right. Like the speaking and the coaching is actually who I am. What I share, what I'm sharing with you right now, it's coming from who I am. It's coming from the greatest version of myself. My flying, don't get me wrong, I love it. I love it. It's what I'm passionate about. It's two different things. So long story short, I realized I'm going to come back to the speaking and coaching, and I started to make moves. But now I've got this business. So then guess what? The story bent. My business partner wanted to move away, and long story short, I ended up buying him out. He moved on with a component of the business, and I became the 100% owner of Red Baron. What did that do? Well, that allowed me to do whatever the hell I wanted to do. I didn't have a business partner. So now I cut my days down, and we were operating 7 days. I cut it down to only operating on the weekends. And you think to yourself, but then how the hell did the business survive? The story bent, and it continues to bend. Now, just so you know, this story in its full capacity, my business partner took the flying school. I kept the brand and kept the part of the business, which was the joy flights. In the story, 80% of the revenue from that business came from the flying school. 20% of the revenue for that business came from the joy flights, aerobatic joy flights. So not only do I take a small component of the business, I then take it and say, I'm only going to fly on the weekends because I'm getting back to my speaking and coaching. There is no way in the story that business would survive. Even my business partner, my ex-business partner says, mate, you're crazy. There is no way you're going to survive. Because we were that business alone, when I was with my business partner, was surviving month to month, maybe every second month. It was just ticking over. Different ball game now. Today, I own that business outright. I fly when I want to, which is usually on the weekends. And I'm now an instructor as well, and I'm instructing students to fly and to do aerobatics. So all that has happened because now you got to understand, you think to yourself, oh, you must have written your goals down. You must have been very clear about the direction you were going. No, I chose not to look at where I'm going. I chose to be in the emptiness. Why? Because I didn't want to distract myself with false targets, with false goals. Because what's real presents itself to me in the moment. It presents itself in the emptiness. So every decision, every feeling here that I said yes to came to me amongst the emptiness. So just want to share that with you, because just because you're in a state of emptiness, right, which you feel love, you feel fullness, and there's nowhere to be, and there's nothing to do, and there's nothing to figure out, and there's nothing to accomplish, it does not mean nothing gets accomplished. All that I just shared with you has been accomplished without any goals, without any direction except for the direction that I feel moved from the moment, from the feeling, with the feeling. That's the only direction I have. I don't need to see what's going to happen 5 years from now. I just need to be with where I'm at and the steps I'm taking now. So that's very opposite to what most people teach, but that's the way I manifest. And I can tell you that there is no manipulation, pushing, grinding, blood, sweat, and tears. Everything I love about it. I love everything that I do. I love every part of it. There's no business plan. Doesn't mean there's no plan, but the plan is unfolding moment to moment. It comes to me. This is the next move. Again, it's not like someone talks to me and goes, hey, Amir, this is your next move. I just feel moved that this is what we're going to do. And some of the things don't make sense. One of the things that I felt to do only last year, I remember I was running a retreat, and in the retreat, I teach people how to do pondering, and everyone had to go do the pondering, and I was doing my own pondering, and it just came really clear. Get rid of all your resellers. The main ones. So I have companies who resell my products, and probably 20 to 30% of our sales come from resellers. And it's just like, get rid of it. So I rang the resellers, and again, it just made no sense. Why would I cut the 30% of my revenue right now up to 30%? Like, what's wrong with having resellers? And everyone kind of relies on the resellers. It just was clear. Get rid of your resellers. So I met up with the reseller and I said, guys, I'm wrapping it up. And of course, they did a couple of backflips and try to get me back in, and we'll work something out here. And again, the feeling was not, and I got rid of it. And I can't tell you my business, how much it's started to skyrocket. Our marketing, our branding, our Instagram, everything is just doubling, tripling in numbers. We just came through summer just now. We're still in summer right now, but we just came through the Christmas period, which is usually our busiest period for obvious reasons, lots of gifts and all that. And this is our busiest Christmas period that we've ever had in the history of our business. And I just got rid of all my resellers. I just trust. I just know that if I feel something, I need to follow. Because the moment I don't follow that feeling, then what am I following? The doubt, the fear, the little Amir. I'm going to follow the little Amir. You know, the only place the little Amir is going to lead me to is staying small till I get to my death. Just keep your head down. Make sure no one notices you. Stay down until it's time. And then you can say, well, we lived our life. We got through it. It's not about getting through it. So, you know, I really felt to share with you some stories so you can see. Normally, I don't share stories to this detail, but I really felt to share that with you because, you know, when I say to people and I talk to people about the emptiness, like their intellectual mind's going, why would I want to connect to empty? I don't want to be empty. I want to be full. Yeah, but there's being full within the emptiness, or there's just being full of shit and saying that you're actually happy because of all the things that you have acquired or because of all the things that you get to do. It's not what you, even you know, you go, well, Amir, you surely when you're flying a plane, you love that. So that is something that you get to do. It's not the flying that I love. It's who I am when I'm flying. Even what I'm sharing with you right now, you probably think, well, this is what you do. You love what you do. No. It's not the speaking, the coaching that I love. It's who I become. It's who I am when I get to do that. It is all a state of being. It's who you're being. Manifestation, why I continue to talk about it, is because I get to talk about who you're becoming. I get to talk about who you really are. I get to talk about the real love rather than the need of love. So I hope that storytelling has landed for you. I will definitely continue this conversation next week where I can talk about the emptiness and what does those statements mean? What does it mean? There's nowhere to be. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to accomplish. So let me expand further on that. I know I'd like to keep these recordings between 30 to 45 minutes at the most, and this one's got away from me, so apologies for that. And my biggest goal here is, or intention for you, is to ensure that I don't overwhelm you. We only recently turned these sessions, the Truth Bumps, on to be weekly. So I would like to keep it short to not overwhelm you. So on that note, I'll see you guys on our recording, our next Truth Bump, and we'll continue this very same conversation next week. Until then. Hey guys, well done. You've just completed this video. How do you feel? I'm just here just to remind you that in order for me to continue to support you, it's important for you to continue to support this work. Please like this video and also press subscribe, and remember to press the bell icon as well so you get notified every single time I release a video. I'm going to be releasing so much content here that's going to support you. If you're looking for something even more, like you're looking for a community to be part of, some extra support, some extra coaching, you're looking to share your journey with other people, then go ahead and visit my website at amirzoghi.com, and there'll be some information there on how you can be more involved. Also, I read all the comments. I'd love to hear your experience. I want to release these videos for you. I want to support you. I love to see how it's landing for you. What's your experience of the videos? Do you have any questions? So remember to comment below and I'll be responding to those messages as well. Thanks guys. I'll see you on the next video.